1 second. There we go. All set.
Okay. Jason is still visible, but that's okay. Oh, there we go. So my name is David Fassenfest. I'm the editor for the Studies in Critical Social Sciences, the Brill series that it's been created. It's been in existence for over 2 decades. And it was motivated by a desire to create a space for critical scholarship that examines important issues. And over the last decade, we've increasingly have articles and books from around the world. And a fortuitous encounter with Professor Hideo Aoki, we began the process of discussing an important topic in Japan. And that the result is this book, The Bottom Worker in East Asia. Parenthetically, my initial engagement with Professor Aoki was to argue with him over the concept of bottom worker. And he was able to persuade me and to convince me that it's a useful concept that should be discussed more importantly. So today we have a presentation of some of the key participants, contributors to this volume. For people who are joining us, let me briefly outline a process. We ask that you keep your cameras off and your microphones off, and there will be a series of presentations. Each will last about 10 minutes. And at the end of the presentations, we will begin a process of questions and answers. Most of you should, if you have a question, put it in the chat function. And Jason Prevost, who's from Brill, will be helping monitor and moderate this. There's also, for some of you, you'll notice a hands function where you can raise your hand. But please don't begin speaking or putting your camera on unless someone has called upon you, so we maintain some order. So without further ado, and to maximize the amount of time available for presentations and discussions, I'd like to turn it over to Tomonori Ishioka, who is one of the co-editors with Hideo Aoki, and he will organize and lead the discussion and the presentations. So welcome, thank you for joining us, and I look forward to a very lively and engaging conversation. So Tomo, it's on you.
Okay, thank you very much, David. My name is Tomonori Ishioka from Nihon University from Tokyo, and I'm really happy to organize these excellent sessions to promote our latest book entitled The Bottom Worker in East Asia. And so I want to give you my introduction. I will open my PDF, this one. Okay.
Okay.
Can you see?
Yeah.
Okay. Hideo,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So in this webinar, 5 speakers will talk about each chapter and introduce the points to the audience. Before starting each presentation, I will show the audience some points of today's webinar. This is the cover page of the book, and you can see the people on the street. Actually, this is Shinjuku Station. The photo was taken by a Japanese photographer who is involved in social movement activities in Tokyo, especially the anti-poverty movement. You could see plastic bags and carry bags that people brought with them. This photo implies that they are homeless people. They do not have a stable shelter, and they are always moving from place to place in Tokyo with their belonging, and they look for opportunities to earn money and materials for living. So the book considers the working and living condition of such people. And another point in this introduction, I would like to share with all the participants is that this book is a product of the members of the Institute on Social Theory and Dynamics. The Institute is run as an NGO, or non-governmental organization, and about approximately 90 scholars working in various universities are members. The Institute is a gathering of critical sociologists, as David mentioned already, in Japan. So if you are interested in the Institute, please feel free to contact us through this website. And before starting each presentation from Aoki Sensei, and I want to share all of you the general and more comparative questions. So the first question is why bottom worker? We use in this book we use the term key concepts bottom worker. So why bottom worker? So we have similar concepts such as precariat or proletariat or urban poor or working poor, like that. But in this book, we use the term bottom workers. Why bottom worker? Why we need this concept? That's one key question. The second question is how do gender roles play out to produce a bottom worker? Because of course, the concept of bottom worker is connected with class issues, but we also need more intersectional approach. So for instance, we try to understand the nexus between class and gender issues. So how do gender roles play out to produce a bottom worker is second key questions. And maybe today's presenter, Keiko Yamaguchi, will show us these points. And third more general question is most of today's participants, we live in Tokyo. So what are the characteristics of Tokyo's urban uneven development through the lens of bottom workers? In our volume, we have ethnographer and also we have specialists producing social atlas, social maps, Professor Asakawa, and I hope we could understand the unique characteristics of Tokyo's from social atlas analysis. And the last question is how do bottom workers respond to structural oppression? The bottom worker is not only victim of this society, but also they try to survive and they try to respond to structural oppression. So the first point is also very significant to understand the life of bottom workers. Okay, so that's their basic and comparative questions for all of you. And so now I would like to share the order of today's presentation. First, Hideo Aoki, co-editor of this book, he will show us the point of introduction. And the second speaker, me, Tomonori, I will talk about theoretical consideration of life world of bottom worker. So I'm a second speaker. And the third speaker is Keiko Yamaguchi, and she will talk about her chapter, which take up the case studies of hotel industry and female worker in hotel industry. She will talk this one. And the fourth speaker is Professor Asakawa. He contributes chapter 8. And as I already mentioned, he is specialist of social map study, and you will understand the unique characteristic of spatial structure in Tokyo. And the last speaker is Yuki-san, Tsubasa Yuki, and he is contributor of chapter 10. And after these 5 presentations, we move to Q&A session. Okay, all right. So my introduction is over. So I would like to. So next speaker is Aoki sensei. Okay, Hideo, floor is yours.
My name is Hideo Aoki. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to David, the Brill staff, and everyone who attended today's webinar. We 10 authors were able to publish such a wonderful book. We would like to express our deepest gratitude, and we are delighted that this is our great honor. This book brings up and discusses 8 cases of bottom workers in East Asia who struggled with and survived difficult circumstances. They are female hotel workers, formerly and present homeless people, Japanese, Latin American, other bottom workers in Japan, married migrant workers in South Korea, slum dwellers in Thailand, and fishery workers in Bangladesh. This book draws up their works, lives, life world, and communities, and consider the key issue of each case studied. The key concept that directs the whole book is the bottom worker. The bottom worker was set up as a challenging concept for analyzing the contemporary working class for the first time in this book. Who are the bottom workers? Why do we need such a concept now? This book begins with these questions. To answer these questions, I first explain how the contemporary labor market has transformed. Next, I examined five existing similar concepts, such as lumpenproletariat, urban poor, underclass, working poor, and precariat, going back to their original meanings. Among them, the precariat that Guy Standing coined is the most suggestive concept for my purposes. However, Standing's interest is different from mine in 3 points. One, the precariat is a concept that focuses on workers employed and unemployed by capital. Precariat does not include the self-employed and homeless people who do not have a direct relationship with capital. In his speech on YouTube, Standing asserts that underneath the precariat, the lumpenproletariat and underclass are ranked. 2. Precariat is a concept that focuses on workers in global north and does not include workers in the south. 3. Standing asserts that the precariat whose employment and life are unstable is different from the working class whose employment and life are stable, protected by the labor union. In the same speech, he asserts that underneath the working class, the precariat is ranked. However, the precariat is the working class of the contemporary form, I think. Thus, I found that we could not sufficiently explain the whole of working people with those concepts, including the precariat. Moreover, there is another reason. Those concepts were constructed originally targeting the workers of the global north, although the workers in the south often have been analyzed using those terms. Because of these reasons, I needed an alternative concept for explaining the whole of contemporary workers. That is why I chose the term bottom worker. I reinforced the concept of the bottom worker by the critical labor and spatial informality theories, keeping in mind the workers' life world, how they interpret their work and lives, and struggle with hard conditions. Thus, I define the bottom workers as follows. First, the bottom worker is a comprehensive concept that squarely focuses on all workers, from non-regular employees to self-employed to workers engaging in informal jobs and even to working homeless people. All of these workers, more or less, have fallen into unstable work and lives due to the downward pressure under the neoliberal economy. For example, there are workers, not only non-regular employees, but sometimes even regular employees who worry about the risk of being fired and being poor, and even about how to survive. Second, bottom workers are stratified within them, such as the bottom of the bottom, in terms of the range and degree of work and life instability. However, bottom workers, both as a whole and as its subgroups, constantly are transforming. In the neoliberal economy, workers face virtually the almost same work and life instability, regardless of the formal occupational division, except for the successful workers and self-employed who have moved up the occupational hierarchy. The boundaries between regular and non-regular employees, formal and informal jobs, and even employed and unemployed workers are becoming unclear. In a word, today, the formal occupational division is not useful increasingly. This is a rough picture of the bottom worker as a contemporary working class. Third, under globalization, capital flows from the north to the south, and labor force flows from the south to the north. The big labor markets and towns of migrants from the south appeared in the cities of the north. In the south, financial and multinational corporations created a huge number of informal jobs in the industries of information, service, and manufacturing. Therefore, the bottom worker should be a global concept that includes workers in the north and the south. On the other hand, the economic inequality, such as GDP between the two, has widened, according to nation union. So a large number of people in the south still live in extreme poverty, unlike in the north. Many migrants and refugees from the south to the north are its evident manifestation. Thus, the bottom worker is a concept that includes both similarities and differences among workers in the north and the south. The concept of the bottom worker must be further refined and elaborated, of course. Being well aware of this, I believe that it is successful in constructing the concept of the bottom workers and in proposing a unique perspective and framework to capture the contemporary workers around the world. Sharing such an understanding of bottom workers in common, 8 authors draw out and analyze the work, housing, lives, interpretations about them, and the community building of 8 cases of bottom workers in 4 countries. How are the bottom workers situated concretely in what kinds of circumstances? How do they struggle to survive? How do they build new lives and communities? The authors went ahead and deepened the key issues in 8 case studies. Those key issues as follows: dormitory labor of female hotel workers, precarious job circuit of married migrant workers, community building for local and foreign workers, participatory community development of slum dwellers, the cycle of debt or poverty of poor fishery workers, the spatial and geographical distribution of bottom workers, the formation and transformation of homelessness, and finally, housing displacement and entrapment of formerly homeless people. All of them are issues that should be developed in broader social context, bringing about the subject of theories in sociology, such as labor, gender, ethnicity, migration, intersectionality, poverty, and so on, and statistical and ethnographical methodologies. In this way, this book brings up 8 cases of bottom workers in East Asia with a challenging key concept of the bottom worker. I believe that it is successful in drawing out the vivid pictures of the bottom workers and pursuing theoretical issues that should be developed into the main theme of sociology. I believe that this book will be of interest to both general readers as a book letting them know the actual lives of bottom workers in East Asia, and researchers as a book providing many theoretical suggestions on bottom workers. I would like to recommend this book with confidence. Thank you for your cooperation, understanding, and discussion from now on today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hideo-san. He explained why you use the term of bottom worker, and now we want to move to next speaker. Next speaker is me, and I'd like to talk about my chapter. Now, okay, I try my screen sharing. No. This one. Can you see? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Okay, now it is my turn. I'm the author of chapter 1, which discusses the life worlds of bottom workers. And again, I want to back to the cover page because I really like this cover page and of the volume. And I want to explain why we use this picture for the cover. From this photo, you could feel the atmosphere of the world of people who live at the bottom of society. So they are bottom people, but they are also workers because they work for a living. Even the work they do is not official and not contract work, but still informal work to reproduce their own lives. So the contributors to the book see them as workers, not just people, and this is a critical point for us. because in Japanese academia, we have a traditional orthodox view that the term worker means contract worker or permanent worker in a factory or office. From this dominant point of view, people like those on the front page, cover page, are not considered workers. They are just people, miserable people. So no attention has been paid to this population. On the other hand, the contributors to this volume take a critical stance against such a dominant view, and we have focused on the working and living conditions of people outside the market transaction. So they are outsiders to market capitalism, but insiders to society itself. And the informal work they do to reproduce their lives is in fact linked to the market because someone buys their product, such as empty cans, scrap iron, and waste paper. So the volume pays attention to such workers, the bottom workers, not only bottom people, bottom workers. And from their perspective, we try to produce critical socialism. That is the connotation of this cover page. Before introducing my chapter, I'd like to share with all of you a very well-known novel entitled Tokyo Ueno Station, written by Yumiri, a novelist living in Japan. Let's have a look at the description of the book from the publisher's description. I did not mention this book in my chapter, but today I want to insert this story to connect her novel and our volume. Okay, so in her book, the publisher description, they like it. In 1933, I was born on the same day as the emperor. The year before the Tokyo Olympics, a man arrived at Ueno Station to work as a migrant domestic worker. A story for those who have lost their place in the world. That's publisher's description. And this Yumiri's book it's about a biography of a man, but it contains topics that overlap with what our book analyzes as sociology, such as class struggle, the emperor system, and the lives of homeless men. The words we have, I have redlined are emperor, Tokyo Olympics, Ueno Station, migrant workers, those who have lost their place. They all represent the hidden history of Japan as a post-war developmental state. Here, I take two of these words and connect them with the discussion in our volume. The novel is set in Ueno Station, which is a symbolic station of Japan's uneven development in national scales. Japan's bullet train and Shinkansen lines run east-west and north and south, and the area of the red one, east-west line, is an economically well-developed area, while the black one, north-south line, remains a relatively underdeveloped area. And while the terminus for the red east-west Shinkansen, the red line, was the final station was Tokyo Station, and the terminus for the black line, north-south express line, the final station was not Tokyo Station, Ueno Station. So Ueno Station, the title of Yumiri's novel, is a destination for migrant workers from the underdeveloped north and south region of Japan, who come to Tokyo as domestic migrants. In the 20th century, many of them came to Tokyo after finishing high school, and they were employed as a group employed method by a company in Tokyo, which provided them with cheap labor. Among the keywords in Yumi's novel, the 1964 Tokyo Olympics is another important event for Japan's developmental state. The Olympics was an event to showcase Japan's post-war revival to the international community. The organizing committee of this Olympic Games selected Yoshinori Sakai, then a student at Hosei University in Tokyo, who was born in Hiroshima Prefecture on August 6, 1945, as the last runner in the torch relay. By choosing someone born in Hiroshima Prefecture on the day of the atomic bombing, the organization wanted to give the impression of Japan's revival into international community. However, there are many backstories to this. The bottom worker is precisely the exploited and neglected existence behind Japan's post-war economic development. And in my chapter, I examine the bottom workers' life world through 3 keywords. The first keyword is dormitory labor. For bottom workers, it is difficult to find and rent an apartment on their own. So the company provides dormitory accommodation, and the workers lived there. So this is convenient for the workers because finding a job is also linked to finding a place to live. So finding a job means finding shelter. Okay. However, the dormitory was not introduced as a welfare initiative. By providing a dormitory, the company was able to create a system where workers could be contained and not run away. For the workers, leaving the company meant not only losing their jobs, but also their dormitory. So dormitory labor acts as a mechanism to keep the bottom workers on a chain of the company. The second keyword is household. Bottom workers could not reproduce themselves and their family on their own income because their salary, their wage is too cheap. Therefore, they have managed to survive by combining the income and resources of other household members. So when sociologists think about bottom workers, we need to look at what kind of household they form and how resources are shared among them. So this is also an issue that Matsumiya-san, who is the author of chapter 5, although he's not the presenter today, he closely discussed this point. And so household is another keyword when we try to understand the life of bottom worker. This point regarding households is also connected with homeless issues in Japan. Indeed, the majority of homeless people in Japan are male, which tends to exclude from state welfare services and the failure to form households, and they become more risk, population to be homeless or street homelessness. So the issue of homelessness is also closely linked to the issue of household formation. I put our colleagues, Professor Yamakita's book, cover page of this one, and most of the scholars of, as I mentioned in introduction, many scholars, they are working these homelessness issues in Japan and international field. Okay. Finally, the third keyword is interpretive labor, which refers to labor in which the bottom worker always had to interpret what their boss is thinking. The boss does not have to interpret what the bottom worker is thinking. If the boss doesn't like him or her, the boss can use violence against her or him, such as firing him or beating him up. But the bottom workers who has no power has to constantly watch the boss's mood and interpret what the boss is thinking in order to prevent the boss from using violence against him. This interpretive labor is not only physically, but also mentally exhausting for the bottom worker. But the important point of our volume is that through interpretive labor, the bottom worker also develops a keen and insightful eye for the situation. Interpretive labor is both mentally exhausting and daily training in the sociological interpretation or native sociological interpretation of situation from bottom workers. Therefore, conducting an ethnographic study of the life world of bottom worker is a way for sociologists to take lessons from bottom workers on how to see realities differently or alternatively. So bottom workers are not just objects of social salvation, but vehicles for the forging of critical sociological reasoning. So this concludes my presentation, and I will over to next presenter, chapter 3, Keiko Yamaguchi. Okay, Keiko.
Yes. Yes, I will share my PowerPoint and just wait for a while.
Okay, I can see your slide.
Okay, thank you. Hello, I'm Keiko Yamaguchi, and I wrote chapter 3, and the title is Transformation of Bottom Workers in the Hotel Industry, Reproduction Structures in Dormitory Labors. Let's start. First of all, let me show you a few pictures of the hotels in hot spring resort areas. Tourism became an important core industry in Japan. Especially hot springs have been popular sightseeing and relaxation spot, and hotels are a major industry in the areas. As you can see on the left hand, some hotels are near beautiful nature. Hot spring areas form communities with many related facilities such as amusement spot, souvenir shops, and foot baths on the right photos.
Keiko-san, sorry for interrupting you, but I use in Japanese. 今ちょっとスライドが見えてるのが端っこが切れてるので、もう一回スクリーンシェア最初からやり直してもらってもいいですか？
はい、わかりました。何か問題が切れてるんですね。あ、わかりました。ちょっと待ってください。じゃあもう一度やります。
Now I ask her to do screen share one more time because I think all of you, our viewpoint has slide cut. Some part of slide
I want to
cut.
show you some pictures.
Okay, could you try? If okay. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that went okay, but next one. Okay, now fine. Okay.
That's fine. Okay.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
And excuse me. Next. Oh. Oh, sorry. This next picture.
No, okay. Now picture inside of hotels. Okay.
Inside? Okay, thank you.
Perfect view. Thank you.
These photos show the inside of the hotel. A photo on the left hand shows the restaurant. Another photo on the right shows a standard Japanese style room called ryokan with tatami mats, shoji screens, and futons. In 2000, there are about 75,000 ryokan and hotels in Japan, but by 2022, the number had decreased to about 50,000. But trends in the number of guest rooms in regular hotels are increasing. Of course, these hotels need a lot of labor force in the region. My chapter, The Reproductive Structure of Bottom Workers in the Hotel Industry, was examined. By clarifying the process and background of how the organization and labor composition were transformed in Japanese-style hotels located in hot spring tourist areas. As for research methods, I have conducted qualitative research since 2006. The target is a large-scale ryokan hotel, Japanese-style hotel, at the hot spring resort in Tokyo metropolitan area since mid-1950s. In the 1970s, at the height of its popularity, the hotel accepted 900 guests per day. It's a large-scale ryokan hotel known for the reasonableness of its rates. This section introduces briefly the characteristics of hotel labor, changes in the composition of the workforce, the reorganization of gender and ethnicity, and the backgrounds. As same as hotels in other countries, hotel labor in Japan is characterized such as many female workers, low wages, hard work, both emotionally and physically, labor shortage, and high turnover rate. Additionally, in particular, many Japanese ryokan have been company housing. Providing company housing is an important means of securing workers and dealing with irregular working patterns. Related to that, hot springs have long been linked to poverty and the mobilization of disadvantaged people, including single women, welfare recipients, and fluid workers. Hot spring areas are specific spaces in which gender-biased and marginalized workforces are concentrated historically. So, how has its labor force composition, especially for low-wage work, changed in this hotel? This figure is a summary of labor force composition and work styles divided into the first period up to the 1970s, the second period after 2000, and the third period in more recent years. The profiles of those engaged in low-paid labor at the hotel changed from middle-aged and elderly women from the countryside in Japan, it is so-called dekasegi, to young foreign students from outside Japan. Fundamentally, in the long term, the composition of the labor force has been influenced considerably by police trends, resulting in the patchwork mobilization of the labor force. I won't go into details now, but please read the book for more information. In these changes, how have gender and ethnicity been reconfigured? The generating of labor that characterized the service industry historically has been overshadowed to some extent by ethnic and aesthetic roles. In particular, aesthetic labor focused on maintaining the proper look and attitudes have been strengthened. Gabriele Alberti highlights that because hotel labor is fundamentally customer-oriented, both the organizational context and also the employer's strategies and assumptions regarding customer preferences are important. For example, in the ryokan, foreign male laborers have begun to work as waiters in restaurants, while Muslim women who wear burqas work as kitchen cooking assistants, where they don't come into contact with hotel guests. For the context of this hotel, the employer's assumption that the appearance of the persons wearing burqa will alarm customers more than gender issues fits this description. Finally, in this transformation, the primary aspect that supports the structure of labor reproduction of workers at the bottom is the existence of a living system involving employee dormitories in which work and housing are combined and daily life is linked to the company. Although times have changed and the layers of those who live in dormitories and perform living jobs have been transformed, they have not been interrupted and are used as a bottom line and flexible labor force. The dormitories are located close to the hotels that employ these workers. In daily life, their relationship and consciousness are inseparable from the workplace mentioned in Chapter 1 by Ishioka-san. In addition, they are living precariously and in near poverty because if they lose their jobs, they lose their housing. The existence and reality of these mechanisms are mentioned in the book more in detail. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. It's finished. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Keiko-san. She closely she analyzes vividly regarding the issue of dormitory labor of female workers at the ryokan industry in Japan. So okay, so next we move to chapter 8, written by Asakawa-san. Okay, Asakawa-san, floor is yours.
Okay, can you see my slide?
Yeah, we can see. Okay.
Okay. My name is Tatsuto Asakawa. I am a professor of Waseda University in Japan. The title of my presentation is The Spatial Distribution of Bottom Workers in Tokyo. Next, please. The purpose of this study was to explore where bottom workers live in Tokyo using macro statistical data. Bottom workers are workers under downward pressure that is difficult to define with a single set of macroeconomical data. Therefore, I first selected regions with a relatively high percentage of poor people as the target regions for analysis, and then attempted to get closer look at the living conditions of bottom workers by depicting the lives of people living in these regions with the social atlases. Next, please. First, to determine where the poor live in Tokyo, I estimated the percentage of households with household income of less than 2 million yen using data from the Housing and Land Survey and the National Census. Next, the social atlas was plotted for only the poor residential areas. Next, please. The areas of Tokyo treated in this study is the gray-colored area in this map. Next, please. The result. Where do the poor live in Tokyo? Next, please. This map shows the ratio of households in poverty. Sanya in Taito World, which is a well-known town for day laborers, shows a high ratio. Next, please. To select areas with relatively high ratio of poor households for analysis, only meshes with the median ratio of 13.8% or higher are considered as the poor residential areas for the following analysis. Next, please. The result shows that poor residential areas were concentrated in the northern and eastern part of Tokyo's inner city. In the suburb, they were found to be concentrated in Hachioji City in Tokyo, Isehara City in Kanagawa Prefecture, as well as in Miura Peninsula, Yachiyo Town in Ibaraki Prefecture. In contrast, no specific areas of concentration were found in Saitama and Chiba Prefecture. Next, please. Social atlases. Next, please. This map shows the ratio of foreign population in 2010. In the northern and eastern part of Tokyo's inner city and the southern end of the inner city, the ratio of foreign residents is high. Next, please. These maps shows the ratio of temporary worker in 2010. Since bottom workers are precariously employed and excluded from the formal job market, it is assumed that areas with high ratio of temporary workers include bottom workers. The left side shows a slight concentration of male dispatched workers in the inner city, but there are some meshes in the suburban areas of Kanagawa, Saitama, Ibaraki, and Chiba Prefecture that show a high ratio of dispatched workers above the median. In contrast, when looking at the ratio of female dispatched workers, right side, the eastern part of the inner city and the area from Toshima to Nakano Ward show a concentration of meshes with a higher ratio than the median. On the other hand, unlike the ratio of dispatched workers for men, there were few meshes with high ratio in the suburban areas. Next, please. Okay, skip this slide. Let's skip this one. To skip this one. Oh, okay, this one. This map shows the high school graduate ratio in 2010. In Japan, it is well known that educational attainment positively correlated with occupational class and income. So it is expected that areas with a high ratio of high school graduates who have lower educational attainment than college graduates include bottom workers. The inner city and its surrounding areas have a relatively low ratio of high school graduates, with the ratio is higher in the surrounding areas. With the recent trend towards higher education, the ratio of college graduates tend to be high among the young, while the ratio of high school graduates tends to be high among the elderly. The ratio of high school graduates is relatively low in inner city, where young and elderly people live together, while the ratio of high school graduates is high in peripheral areas, where there are many elderly people. Next, please. We have analyzed poor neighborhoods and depicted the lives of people, including bottom workers, living in poor neighborhoods using multiple social atlases. To organize the characteristics of the residents, I will organize the communities that making up Tokyo on a coordinate space using two axes: distance from the city center and the age of the residents in this figure. Next, please. The results showed that the northern part of inner city had a higher percentage of foreign residents, temporary workers, and male part-time workers. In Tokyo, where the industrial structure is concentrated on the finance, information, and service industries, the upper white-collar class was concentrated in the central and southern part of the inner city. Next, please. On the other hand, those who work in the industries that support the daily lives of these workers are concentrated in the northern part of the inner city, which is assumed to include the bottom workers. The poor living in Tokyo's inner city include foreigners, young people working part-time job, and the elderly who have no choice but to work part-time in their old age. Next, please. The poor living in the suburbs were mostly elderly people. However, several clusters of poor residential areas with a high percentage of foreigners were found in Ibaraki and Chiba Prefecture. In these areas, many foreigners live as laborers in agriculture and agricultural areas and warehouses. Thank you very much for patient attention.
Okay, thank you so much, Asakawa-san, for your analysis of the spatial structure of Tokyo from your sociological method of social atlas. And your chapters show us the truly methodological diversity of volume. And thank you for your presentation. And okay, we move to next speaker and that speaker, Yuki-san. Also, chapter 10. Okay, so Yuki-san, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. I will share my slide.
Okay, we can see.
Okay. So, I'm Tsubasa Yuki. I'm a PhD student of Tokyo Metropolitan University. And I have written chapter 10 of the book, whose title is Displacement and Entrapment of Bottom People in Tokyo, Urban Regeneration and Slow Violence. This chapter illustrates displacement and entrapment of the bottom people in Tokyo, especially those experiencing homelessness and those taking public assistance, in the context of the urban regeneration of Tokyo and the recomposition of welfare systems since the 1990s. The urban renewal in Tokyo has been accelerated since the 1990s after the asset bubble collapsed and entrepreneurial urban policies were installed. It was part of time difference gentrification and consists of 3 consecutive processes. The decline of the old middle class since 1980, the decline of small capitals since 1990, and the increase of the new middle class since 2000. So as it goes with industrial changes in Tokyo, the process seems to be more like replacement rather than displacement. So it's being said that the regeneration in Tokyo is less conflictual compared to gentrifications in many of Western cities like New York or Paris. However, one of the key arguments in this chapter is that when we broaden our focus to the bottom layer of the urban bottom, and when we look at not only physical displacement, but also indirect displacement and entrapment, a different picture will appear. In this section, I would like to shortly show you how homelessness in Tokyo have been expanded, how the welfare system has been adapted to the new situation, and what kind of problems the urban bottom face in regenerating Tokyo. In Tokyo, the number of rough sweepers sweeping outside increased in the 1990s when Sanya lost its function as day labor market. Sanya area has been the biggest yoseba in post-war Japan. In old times, it was on the fringe of Tokyo, but is now located in inner city area of Tokyo. So this is a map of Tokyo metropolitan region. The red area is Tokyo, and the dark red area is the core city of Tokyo. The central part of the core city is called city center, and the Sanya is close to the city center. It's like 5 or 6 kilometers from Tokyo Station. And this is a picture of Sanya in the 1970s. You can see a lot of day laborers. Brokers called Tehaishi come to Sanya and bring them to construction sites both within and outside Tokyo. More than 15,000 of day laborers were living in Sanya in the 1960s, and they usually stay in Doya, a cheap hotel which has its origin in the period. There were many yoseba areas in major cities, and the rapid growth of Japanese economy after the World War II was not possible without this unskilled labor power. However, over time, construction industry has been rationalized, and face-to-face recruitment, which was dominant in yoseba, was replaced by other means of recruitment. So yoseba has now lost its dominant position as a day labor market. Many people in Yoseba who stayed in Doya lost their housing and became homeless. Also, more recently, homeless workers living in informal housings have been increasing since the 2000s as informalization of labor and decrease in affordable housing deepens. The number of rough sweepers have been decreasing in TMR. Among other welfare programs, public assistance plays a major role in supporting homeless people. However, homeless workers have been excluded from PA until the mid-2000s. After a lot of court battles and protests at local government office, it's become open to them as well. In TMR, in most cases, PA applicants in homelessness are institutionalized into low-cost accommodations provided by private entities. Since the operation of PA is highly dependent on them, they have been kept unregulated until recently. However, as LCAs have been criticized for their poor living conditions, the national government and TMG began to restrict regulations of these facilities. This poses another problem with LCAs. Due to rent increase in the core city and the strengthened regulations, LCAs are now increasingly suburbanized, which undermines PA recipients' access to basic services and labor markets. In this circumstance, there has been used by PA recipients and their supporters as an alternative to suburbanized shelters. So let's say to live in Sanya is a tactic by the urban bottom worker to evade ill-conditioned and suburbanizing shelters. There is a network of civil organizations that provide medical services and nursing cares to PA recipients living in the area, which contributes to rebuild their livelihoods in the area. Also, for some people seeking jobs, staying in Doya makes it much easier to find jobs than living in suburban shelters. But not all residents in Doya feel comfortable and willing to stay there permanently. As rent increases in the core city, it's often difficult to find affordable housing. The survey conducted by TMG indicates that not a small portion of people are unable to move to apartments because they cannot find an apartment below the limit of the housing aid of PA. In short, even though they can evade LCAs, some of them are entrapped to Doya or exclusionary displaced from regular rental housing. Okay, and so while it seems that
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
okay, so while it seems that urban regeneration in Tokyo has proceeded in a peaceful manner compared to other cities, the capability of the bottom people to choose the space or place of their living has been curtailed. It might not be a short-term conflict like direct displacement, but it's a slow virus which has been caused by the long-term change of the landscape in Tokyo and the restrictive operation of PA dependent on private shelters. And lastly, I would like to give some remarks on the concept of urban bottom worker. It's a comprehensive concept that extends our attention beyond conventional class analysis based on occupational statistics. Combined with concepts of indirect displacement and entrapment, this concept enables us to decipher finer realities of urban poverty and source to supplement macro pictures of Tokyo. Also, as the urban bottom includes PA recipients in homelessness, we had to take welfare institutions into account. As demonstrated earlier, this urges us to examine the relationship between urban regeneration and welfare systems. The relevant social, economic, and policy context would be different when we look at other cities and different social groups. I think the merit of the concept of urban bottom or bottom worker is to provoke questions that may show us different pictures of urban realities than those presented by conventional concepts of class. And these are references, and that's all from me for now. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thank you, Yuki-san. Please close your
Okay.
right.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you so much for all the 5 presenters. Now we move to Q&A time. We have audiences and participants. So if you have any questions, first you can write down your comment to chat box, or else if you want, you can put the button of raise your hand, and we will give you the chance to speak from your microphone. So if you have any question, please write down your comment in chat box first. But before I want to using this waiting time, because this is a waiting time to collect question and comment from audiences. This waiting time, I want to use more productively, and I give you as a chair. I want to give some questions to 3 presenters. Chapter 3, Yamaguchi-san. Chapter 8, Asakawa-san, and also Chapter 10, Yuki-san. My question, my general question to the 3 presenters is first for Yamaguchi-san. When it comes to the accommodation industry in rural area of Japan, scholars from outside or international audiences think their image is more luxury hotels and ski resorts like that. But your case, you take up the case of ryokan industry, and ryokan industry is a different line with luxury resort hotels. So please explain how ryokan industry is developed and how ryokan maybe they might exploits female workers from other regions. Could you explain more about this point?
Yeah, thank you. Yes. Jobs in ryokan is very diverse. Maybe high-class ryokan, there are high-class ryokan, and my target is reasonable ryokan, but very big ryokan. They have been actively employing women as an extension of their domestic work, basically taking care of guests, meals, bathing, sleeping, and other aspects of their lives. It used to be considered a resume-free job and one that didn't require special skills, and being a woman was important itself. In addition, the hot spring resort area I researched, Reasonable Hotel, used to be places where men would come in groups to travel to relieve their sorrows. I mean, some relaxation spot for men. And there are plenty of nighttime entertainment, such as geisha house, strip theater, bars, and restaurants. I think that women are needed in this aspect as well. The ryokan are always short of staff, and they attracted women by putting forward such conditions as dormitories, daycare centers, advance payment, and secret workers' privates. Is it make sense?
Yeah, thank you so much. That's good information for international audiences to explain what ryokan is, and yeah, actually, yeah, ryokan in Japan, ryokan has they hire lots of female workers from outside of the regions. So not only metropolis and cities, but also rural areas or ryokan place, ryokan town. We can observe lots of female workers who engage dormitory labor in rural area. And for instance, our co-editor, Aoki sensei, Aoki-san, he's coming from such a ryokan town. I think he was born in ryokan town in provincial area. And so this ryokan town is interesting point for sociological analysis for bottom. So anyway, so the next question to chapter 8, Asakawa-san, and your chapter is very informative to understand the spatial structure of Tokyo, because international audiences they regard Tokyo or Japan is their image of Japan is very homogeneous society and homogeneous towns, and the image also affluent society like that. But at least our book attacks this dominant views, Japan is affluent society. But on the other hand, we produce bottom worker at the same time, and also in the term of spatial structures, Tokyo is diverse, not homogeneous society. So Asakawa-san, could you explain more about what's the unique characteristics of Tokyo if we compared spatial structure with other developed societies, metropolis, or other agencies? What's the unique characteristics of Tokyo in terms of spatial structure?
Okay, I will try to answer your question about the characteristics of Tokyo in terms of spatial structure. As you know, Tokyo was burned to the ground twice. One is Great Kanto earthquake in 1923, and the other is Great Tokyo Air Raid, firebombing of Tokyo in 1945. At that time, the Tokyo metropolitan government made the decision to distinguish between industrial and residential areas. The results, white-collar residential areas were created in Yamanote, and blue-collar residential areas were created in Shitamachi. This east and west disparity still exists in central Tokyo today. Other cities in East Asia, such as Beijing and Seoul, have no history of being burned to the ground. So this east-west disparity created by two disasters is the main characteristics of Tokyo in terms of spatial structure, I think.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. That's great answer. Yeah, actually, in Tokyo, we experienced twice burns completely, almost completely. And after that, they intentionally create urban mapping and urban planning. So that's a unique point. I'm not sure, but maybe, for instance, in the United States, David, the city and metropolis in United States, do they experience same one, like burning completely or almostly? Do you have any cities or any metropolis in United States, David? David, muted, David.
That's a good question. You can hear me, yes?
Yeah.
We have the historically significant Chicago fire, which burnt the city down completely, and it was one of these bad news, good news, because it was a city that had been primarily built in the old style wooden buildings, and because of the fire, it created an enormous construction industry incentive. And if you go to Chicago today, they have what's commonly referred to as graystones, which are these 3-story attached brick houses, which change the character of the city. And as a result, it, with the exception of the railroad tracks, as I'm sure in Tokyo, the similar kind of experience, certain infrastructure features cannot be moved, but based on sort of planning, in Chicago, it's the river and it's the railroads, and you create corridors of affluence and poverty. Not in the same form, but for different reasons. There was massive rioting in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where a whole section of the city was burned to the ground that happened to be basically a minority Black community. But we also have experience where whole areas of the city were demolished for example, building the highway system, or building, or extending cultural events. So a very large Italian and Greek neighborhood around what is now Lincoln Center was a very vibrant, ethnic, low-wage, working class neighborhood. But for cultural reasons, the city basically cleared the people out. So one has to, I think what I take away from Professor Asakawa's comments is that we have to consider many kinds of physical shocks to the infrastructure, and then look at the consequence of population movement, of replacement. And this continues. I mean, Chicago is again a good example. I think the last census was the first time that the suburban areas were poorer than the city, which historically had been a poor central city and a wealthy suburbs. And because of driving, because of the desire to be downtown, poor people were pushed out of the city into the suburban areas. So it's a very fluid circumstance. I would like to also make one quick comment, if I may, and that is that one of the strengths of the book, and there's a whole section which makes international comparisons. It talks about South Korea, it talks about microfinance in other countries. And I think the strength of this book is, on one hand, a very detailed analysis of Japanese society and the meaning and importance of modern people as a sort of economic social cohort, if you will, and what happens to them is important, but also by making the case for what was going on in South Korea, what was going on with the Japanese, the Latin American Japanese that come back and work in Japan, that these are to borrow Professor Aoki's framework, it's the distinction between the large scale phenomena and then the details on the ground, as it were. The importance of examining, because there are differences, but the differences enlighten us and provides possibility. So I was going to ask a question of all of you. Clearly, there's a historical discussion in terms of transformation. Who, was a worker? When? Where do they live? How do they move? Who gets displaced? And if you could, maybe we could end this in the last few minutes with any kind of assessment for what does the past tell us about the future? What does the rising inequality, the growing global bottom worker across many countries, what do we get from this analysis when we read about the bottom worker in East Asia? We can take lessons, and we can take a look at post-colonial experiences in Africa, other Asian countries, Latin American development, the relationships. I'm thinking about Sao Paulo, which has, I think, the largest Japanese community outside of Japan, right? It's even more common than Peru. So there's it's an international world, if you will. It's a connected world. Globalization, even if it's on the decline, has homogenized culture, and I think, as Professor Aoki's presentation tells us, is that we have to pay attention to who these people are, because on one level they become invisible. Your presentation about how we have to understand it as both individuals and households, and etc. So I will stop talking. We have another almost 10 minutes. As people who know me know, that I can say a lot and I can always keep talking a long time. So I think I made my point. I want to thank everybody for a really good presentation. And I'm curious to hear what you have to say in response to my general question about the importance for a broader interpretation. So.
Yeah. Thank you, David. Your comment is very suggestive to all presenters. So does anybody wants to reply his comments? Hideo, please, you muted. Please open your microphone if you want to say something. No? Muted. No. ボタンをマイクのボタンをオープンにして。
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. So yeah, very important advice. So I try to compare the bottom workers in Japan with foreign countries, not only North and South. And originally, Japan is one of group of semi-periphery countries according to Wallerstein scheme. So around 150 years ago, Meiji era, Japan began to modernize. So on that time already, European countries advanced capitalism. So that's why in Japan, government practice strong measures from over to make Japanese society. So I think this history continue to present time. For example, in Tokyo, you can see Tokyo, the population of foreign workers and the population of homeless people, very few. So, for example, homeless people population around only 5,000 maybe. And the population of foreign workers in Tokyo around 20 to 30,000 only. So that few population, small population, is a result of strong policy from over. So how to make project to build Tokyo or local government practice so strong policy, and at the same time central government intervene in local government, and from over always how to lead, how to make Tokyo. So that's why, in Tokyo, I think in comparison with foreign countries, it's very for local government in the for the power, it's very easy to manage, homeless issue and foreign workers issue. So that is as I told you, it's that is continued historical characteristics to make Japan itself, nationalism itself, and concretely, same context to I interpret same in the same context to build Tokyo itself. So I think that is one of important characteristics when we interpret, we think of Tokyo, and not only Tokyo, but also whole Japan. Sorry, thank you.
Let me, Mayushida has a question for, I guess, all of you as we get towards the end. And she asks, what can you say about the key characteristics of East Asian bottom workers compared to other regions, including those of the US and Europe? Which is, I guess, a follow-up of the point I was making. How do you see this apply, whether it's gendered work, whether it's spatial orientation of cities? So I'll let you answer. And thank you, Mike, for that question.
Mike-san, thank you so much for your questions. At least we can say in East Asian society, if we compare the East Asian society and, for instance, Western, like Europe, if society, one big unique characteristic is, I think, population size or the population scale, and Japan and also China and also even the Philippines. Each nation has plenty of human labor power or labor size in national level. So in 20th centuries, for the development of urban space, like Tokyo or Manila or Shanghai, each nation can use domestic migrant workers from peripheral sites in national scale, not to international scale. But if we think about in the metropolis in Germany, they need international migrant workers from outside of their nation. That's one of the contrasting points when we think about East Asian society, and that's my comment. Any other?
Well, it's we've been at this now for just under an hour and a half. I think we need to come to a close, but I want to tell everybody that this has been recorded, and that once it becomes available, we will broadcast how one could watch the discussion. I want to thank all the presenters for their time and their wonderful presentations. Yes.
Could you give us just 1 minute for the introduction of our next project. Is it okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. So maybe Yuki-san, you can yeah, share us our. Today is this one, but we are planning to produce next attempt. Okay, Yuki-san, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ishioka. Lastly, I would like to give a brief comment on our next work. As noted in the introduction, this book was written by members of the Institute on Social Theory and Dynamics, or ISTAT. In this book, we elaborated the concept of bottom worker or the urban bottom and analyzed their composition and dynamics in different cities in East Asia. But this is not the end of the story. We, together with the members of ISTAT, we are currently working on another book. In the next one, we will discuss the urban bottom in 6 cities worldwide: New York, Paris, Tokyo, Manila, Mexico City, and Nairobi. This is our new challenge to further sophisticate the concept of urban bottom, and we expect such a challenge would provoke more questions about urban realities. Please look forward to our new challenge.
And I'm happy to say this book will appear in the same series, published by Brill and edited by folks in this book. So thank you very much for your participation. And with that, I want to thank those people who served as guests and listened to the talk. And I hope you have a wonderful day. I'm ready to go to sleep. And we will see each other again in, I think, November 30th, if I'm not mistaken, when we'll have another round focusing on a time frame for people in the Western Hemisphere and Europe. So I look forward to seeing some or all of you again, and you have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your day in Japan. Jason, it's up to you. You ready to close up?
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye, Hideo.